Oh, things just turned serious, my friends. If it weren't for the fact that this episode should technically have aired next week, the suspense would have been a lot greater. Yes, because technically this was the episode that's going to air next week, so I heard. It's supposedly the real number one of these episodes, whatever. Well, either way, it's Ducktales. Woohoo! And it's me, the Angry Anime Fan, to bring you the 19th episode of the Ducktales 2017, The Other Bin of Scrooge Mcduck. A pretty dark episode, mind you. We continue the Magica Dispel storyline as she keeps on abusing and criticizing Luna, even when she makes a dagger of diamond trying to cut loose the number one dime from Scrooge in his sleeves, while he still mumbles about his hatred for Santa, something about stealing his cookies or whatever, and milk or something like that. It's revealed that Scrooge number one dime's rope is not just tied to a normal rope. No, it's actually a pretty unbreakable rope. Talk about paranoid. But given his number one dime, it makes sense. So, um, so either way, Scrooge begins to feel like something is foul, so he decides to hide the number one dime in a supposedly other bin. A bin even Webby, who is a very big fanboy of Scrooge, mind you. In fact, she wanted even to go to Scrooge in his sleep to collect his spit. Oh, even Magica says in this episode, which is a little bit of a hypocritical humor, that she's a little bit cuckoo. Well, she's Webby Gale. What can we do? Either way, so using some manipulation, Lena is forced to take Webby to that other bin. Although by now, this episode, now Lena has become completely fond of Webby, so she is pressured by Magica to do it. It's revealed that the other bin is actually some sort of a prison, so to speak. In fact, just entering that scene, you cannot tell me you did not get horror movie-like vibes just watching that bin. In fact, it reminded me a lot, not that I've seen that movie, but for some reason it reminded me a little bit of The Cabin in the Woods, so to speak. But maybe that's just me. But you know what they say? The deepest terror you have to lock up, because you do not know if they will ever haunt you again. In fact, Scrooge has even has given locked in a unicorn there, which is actually a reference that in many mythologies a unicorn is not just a blessed creature of magic. No, it actually is a ferocious beast. But then Lena has a nightmare when she opens one door, which turns out to be the famous dream catcher that Webby mentions in the beginning of this episode, and enters her worst nightmare, which is taking the dime, Magica becoming super powerful, turning Webby into a doll, which, mind you, that doll looks exactly like her original design, and even hugging Lena in a very disturbing manner. I mean, just hugging from that makes Lena crying. Turns out that's her worst nightmare. So in the end, having enough of Magica's manipulation and realizing that Webby is really the true friend, and after Scrooge enters the bin and reprimands them for being here, and revealing the number one dime was in the first vault all to begin with, he returns because of another reason. I'll tell you that soon. Magica actually takes control of Lena. With the full moon and eclipse, her magic is now at the peak, so now she takes control of Lena, trapping her in an I must scream situation. And the despair is now getting closer. But that's the main plot. The rest of the plot is actually a B storyline where turns out we see Louis still using his con artist moments to fold his to make Dewey fold his clothing. He even has created a trust fund where he takes money from Uncle Donald. But then Huey reveals he actually somehow ran into a Bigfoot. and took out a prickle in Ina's toe and decided to take him to that match. I mean, that is one of the most comedic scenes of the chapter, mostly because it just doesn't make sense. I mean, where did that Bigfoot suddenly pop in? Wasn't there a short trailer where Huey actually caught a Bigfoot? I mean, what? Am I right? So, well, either way, it turns out that the Bigfoot that we named Tenderfeet is actually not a Tenderfeet, but only Louis finds that out. Turns out his name is Gavin and he's voiced by Sam Riegel and turned out to be a con artist that just wants to mooch off them all. But he threatens Louis to tell. So Louis uses the alternate motives. He pretends he cares for Tenderfeet, but then shaves his fur and proclaims he has to return to nature. And this entire episode, Scrooge is paranoid that someone is watching him, which technically someone is, Magica, you know. So he hunts down, and when he sees the Bigfoot, he's prepared to shoot him. But Louis plays the fake melody, which even Scrooge falls off, mind you. Tell you what, Scrooge shouldn't fall for this. I mean, he is the best businessman ever. He shouldn't be able to fawn for a con. But hey, I guess Louis is a child prodigy when it comes to con artists, and takes him to nature, saying that he cannot return to this one because it will just be bad. So even though Gavin, which is the real name of this Bigfoot, do not get punished for all this, he still doesn't win because Louis just whispers to his ear, "I win." That's basically just, well, the B plot. The real storyline of this all, well, that's one of the most interesting of them all. In fact, is that there are some mythology gags moments here. This Bigfoot, although I'm not sure if it looks similar to that Huey trailer, it has some resemblance to the Bigfoot seen in the Goofy movie. And also a photo which Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie. A photo of Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie that Gavin scratches has some similar artworks to the end credits of the Quack Pack. You know, when they stand on top of him or something like that. Also, as I said before, in the dream sequence, Magica turned Webby into a doll that is exactly like his original design. So, and according to stories, there is actually a worry room inside this universe as well. But we do not. I don't really sure if it's seen it, but it's apparently kept. That's where the dime is apparently kept. So yeah, I mean, this is definitely a dark episode, especially with the fact that Magica has now taken completely control of Lena, and she was just about to make a fully turn on Leith. But now Magica is in control, and Webby is now ready for a rude awakening, especially since we all know that Magica is cruel. In fact, the trailer has dropped of the last, 5 or 4 episodes of Season 1, and let me just tell you, it looks like this Season 1 is gonna end with a bang! And I'm looking forward to these new coming episodes. There was even a quick glimpse of Magica. Oh, she is a terrifying will in this one. Yeah. This episode was golden. 10 out of 10 for me. Maybe a 9.5 out of 10. It was golden. It was so many scary moments. And yeah, it basically reminded me a little bit of a horror movie. Not that I'm a fan of horror movies, even though I watch them sometimes. But yeah, it was just a good episode of that all. And I'm looking forward to the next. But again, next week has apparently been rumored to be a little bit more of a filler episode. But I think we do need a little joke, especially if the storyline is now going to get serious. So give me your thoughts if you have any.